Hello, I am Minecraft Phenom 08, and this is episode 14 of my Billions and Billions challenge. In today's episode, I am going to be working in my new big building over here, and let's take a look at that real fast. And I'm going to be building a large reactor and a mob spawning area in this building. But first off, I want to do a few housekeeping things. I would like to make a system that can automatically make water buckets. However, that is actually very, very simple. So what I need to do is I actually think I might need some covered flux cable. So let's grab that and let's run down to my workshop because all I have to do is alter a few things. So a while back when I set up this workshop, I set up magma crucibles and fluid transposers on either side of the basement here. However, on this side, I've got rid of the magma crucible and the modular storage unit that you see over there, and I just have the fluid transposer. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to drop an ME interface right here, and then I am going to hook up a covered cable to it. That way it is connected to my ME system. And I don't know if you've watched the previous few episodes, I do have 7 channels off of this line, so this ME interface is actually the 8th and last channel that I can use off of this covered cable. So the next thing I need to do is I need to plop down this infinite water source. Now I've decided to go with the dense infinite water source, that way I can make water buckets very quickly. So all I have to do is place that under the transposer, and as you can see, the fluid transposer is already full of water. So the next thing I need to do is I need to set up a recipe so that I can actually make water buckets. That is going to be rather simple though. So all I have to do is tell the system that if you provide that fluid transposer with a bucket, it will make a water bucket. So what I have to do is I have to use a blank pattern. I have to come over here and click on this so that it is a processing pattern now. Put the bucket in here, and I'm going to tell it that a bucket equals a water bucket. So now what I have to do is I need to find my ME interface that is hooked up to the fluid transposer, and I can find it right here. All I have to do is drop it in, and let's test this bad boy out. It should work rather quickly, so let's go ahead and tell it to craft 10 water buckets. Before I had 2, so once I hit this, it should go ahead and start crafting those. So as we can see, I am getting water buckets, so that is fantastic. The next thing I want to do, housekeeping wise, around my base, is I want to set up a large battery for my base here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be uninstalling all of this resonant flux duct here, and I'm going to be replacing it with basic capacitor banks from the mod. Oh shoot, I did not mean to do that. Did not mean to go down the elevator. I'm going to be replacing that with basic capacitors from the mod Ender.io. And these each block can hold 1 million RF. They have their own energy units. I think it's called micro infinities, but micro infinity equals an RF. So for all practical purposes, it's the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip out all of this resonant flux duct, and I'm going to install this battery here. Now the cool thing about these basic capacitor banks are they form a multi-block structure. So for example, when I do this, this is all one structure at this point. And so I'm just going to have this giant structure underneath my base. So what I want to do while I set this up, I want to set this up to actually output energy to the ME controller. And I can do that rather easily by placing down these blocks first in between my ME controller blocks and configuring them, and that'll make things just a little bit easier for me. So I can go ahead and do the rest of this off camera. This is just going to be pretty simple here. I'm just going to rip out all of this resonant flux duct and place down this basic capacitor bank. And once I have all of that done, I will be right back. I now have the entirety of my basic capacitor bank built, and as we can see, it does hold quite a bit of power. It's 127 million RF it will hold. And so as we can see, it is taking in a positive amount of energy from my reactor. One thing I didn't mention is that all of my offshoots of energy that I am sending out to machines, I did have to configure these individual blocks to be outputs. If I go ahead and tear this away, you can see that the orange equals output, blue equals input. And then the unconfigured sides actually can input and output, but that actually kind of poses issues if you just leave it unconfigured when you have it hooked up to flux duct. So I have all of this here and that down there configured to be output, as well as all of the blocks that are outputting to the IMI controllers on either side there. So that's fantastic. Here is where my reactor hooks up to the battery, and that is an input, as we can see right there. So that's how I have everything configured right now. Let's go ahead and start on the reactor building. So what I'm going to do now is I should have everything I need. Let's actually put most of this, or some, not most of it away. But let's work on the reactor now. Hopefully I have enough of the blocks here. I might have to come back and get some more glass or something, but hopefully that won't be an issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a very large reactor right here, and actually in the future this reactor will grow taller. But for right now, let's go ahead and start on the base of it. So the base of it is actually going to be down here. And that is just so I can have better, cleaner input and output. I know it's going to look kind of weird down here because it's not flush with the ceiling. But what can you do? Either I have to make the conduit coming off of it look a little wonky, or I have to make the bottom of the reactor protrude just a little bit into my basement here. And I've decided to go with this. That way I can actually run the conduit without you being able to see it. And we'll go over that in just a little bit. So how I want to build this reactor is I want to build it right now to be as tall as the building is. So that is perfect right there. And then the internal of this reactor is actually going to be an even number, which is kind of weird for what I normally do. But I think it'll be okay. I think I have a pretty good layout of fuel rods that'll work fairly well. In the future, this reactor will actually produce steam instead of energy, but for right now I'm going to configure it to just output energy, and that's because I need the energy in this building today. In the future, though, when I connect up turbines to it, it will be able to output a lot more power. So it looks like I'm actually going to run out of these reactor casing blocks, so I'm probably going to have to go grab some more of these. It's not going to be a whole lot, but I do need some more of them. And I can probably go ahead and do the math on my reactor glass while I'm away as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away, get some more reactor blocks, make sure I have enough of the reactor glass, and then I will be right back. So I have the outer shell of the reactor built. I actually had just enough of the reactor casing blocks to do that. However, I actually needed 8 more because I'm going to have 8 fuel rods, and one end of each fuel rod needs to be capped with a reactor casing, and then the other end needs to have the reactor control rod. So that's why I needed 8 more of those. I also did need more reactor glass. I did not have enough. I should have enough now, knock on wood, if I did my calculations correctly. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delineate the middle of the reactor, and then I'm going to find where I want to put my fuel rods. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to place 4 of them on either side of the reactor. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to scooch these just a little bit closer. Let's go ahead and do something like this. And then, so we have 4 blocks in between the end and the far rod. So if I do the other 4 like that. Okay, so let's get rid of all of these cobblestone here. They were just placeholders. For today, I don't think I'm going to add any moderators to this reactor, such as the resonant ender. I will do that in the future, though. It will make this reactor a whole lot more efficient, but I'm just not going to bother with it today. So the next thing is, let's go ahead and build this the fuel rods up, and that's going to be pretty easy with my builder's wand that I have, or diamond wand rather. It is a better builder's wand. So let's change the mode here. And that's not the correct mode. There we go. That should be the correct mode, and I just need to build this up to be not quite flush with the top here, and then I need to do the same thing over here. I should have enough of the rods. Yes, I do. Okay, so this end of the rods rather, needs to have the casing blocks here. So there we go. And then the rest of the outer casing of this is going to be mostly glass. And I do need to figure out where I want to put the controller. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the controller down here somewhere. And let's go ahead and place it right here. That way I can access it from right here. And then I will have 2 power taps on this reactor. So one of the power taps is actually going to be right here. I actually have some conduit already run, and that's going to be for my mob area down in the basement. As you can see, there's conduit under here. It is of the Ender energy conduit, and I have some conduit facades to make things look nicer. But all of my energy conduit is run already. So let's go ahead and set this to be extract only. The reactor obviously doesn't need energy. It is going to produce energy. So, and then the other power tap, I think I want to be right. Let's put it right here. And then what I'm going to do, I think I can place a door on a facade, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So I'm just going to run the conduit over like this. I don't actually have conduit facades with me, or the conduit even, but conduit will just run kind of over right here, and then I will facade that up, and it'll look just like stone. So that'll look nice, and then let's get down to actually placing my glass. So actually this isn't going to be bad at all because of my wand, if my wand doesn't give out, that is. Cool. And I do need to make sure to put glass on top of these as well so I can use my wand most effectively. And right now I'm having issues placing blocks apparently, so that's cool. And what this wand should allow me to do is build up rather quickly now that I have that base layer down. Did I build all the way around? I did not. I kind of figured that might be an issue, but I think we're good now. Okay, so I need to be super careful with this next one. There we go. And that's all of the sides done. Now I need to do the top and bottom, but that's going to be kind of the same process here. I need to be kind of careful here. That way I don't accidentally build them on top. I could change the mode of my wand, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm just going to trust myself to not do something dumb. Famous last words. Okay, the top is done. Now I need to do the bottom. I will need to put in the IO blocks, and I can figure that out after I have the glass put in. And the reactor should actually form out without those blocks, but it absolutely needs those blocks to be able to function correctly. When I say form up, this is a multi-block structure, and once it is formed in a valid way, it will change the textures of some of the blocks. That's what I mean by that. And the GUIs will become functional. Okay, fantastic. As you can see, the GUIs are functional. The reactor is built. However, it is not functional and cannot be functional until I add a few things. So let's go ahead and add those few things. Let's go ahead and do the IO over here. And that just, I can make things look pretty neat by just doing it over here. It'll be here. One of these needs to be output, and it doesn't matter which one, to be honest. And then I have buses already here. So this will be the export bus. It will export refined uranium into the reactor. And as you can see, the reactor, 64 of the refined uranium ingots actually didn't fill the reactor up that much. But then my import bus will go right there, and then let's go ahead and run this, the ME conduit here. And I did it again, my goodness. So how I'm going to do this is I'm just going to run this directly over and down like so. So there we go. And then I can clean this up just a little bit later. That's not a problem at all. Okay, so actually I think what I'm going to do now is I am going to clean this up, and I can do that off camera. It's just pretty simple stuff. And I'm also going to run the energy conduit just straight over there. So once I have that done, I will be right back. So I have everything cleaned up, and I decided to fire up my reactor just kind of as a test, and I was severely disappointed by the energy output. And as we can see, as this thing kind of spools up, I guess not really spools up, but gets up to power, it's kind of disappointing. Only about 8,000 RF per tick right now. Looks like it's still going. But it should top out around 9,000 RF per tick, maybe a little bit more. But that's kind of disappointing compared to what I was hoping for. So I am going to put some Resonant Ender in it. As you can see, the reactor is at full tilt right now. So let's go ahead and turn this thing off, and let's go ahead and add those buckets. And I need to do that at the very top of the reactor. So let's get started with that. So I am going to have to get rid of a lot of this glass right here. But it won't be a problem. I can easily put this back here after we get done. And I just need to add a lot of the Resonant Ender so that I can make more power, because 9,000 RF per tick just isn't going to cut it at this point. Mob spawners are very energy intensive, and so I would like to get as much power out of this thing as I can at this point. Okay, so I think I have most of the glass taken out that I will need. So the thing about adding Resonant Ender or any moderator to an extreme reactor is that you only have to worry about the cardinal directions. So as in northwest, south, and east, I don't need to worry about diagonal from the fuel rods. I just need to worry about the cardinal directions. So let's go ahead and start placing some ender buckets. I'm just going to do the sides right now because that's the easiest place to start. And that should add a significant amount of energy alone. So let's get rid of those buckets. Let's get some fresh buckets. And I have more buckets in here, if I can find them. So let's grab, and actually I want to leave one slot open in my inventory for the empty buckets. So now what I need to do is I actually need to be a little creative so that I can get buckets out to here, 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 and here. So what I'm going to do real fast is I'm going to build this out so that I can put buckets here. And then let's go ahead and get rid of this so that I can put buckets here. And now I should be able to put the end buckets. The end ender buckets. Okay, so there we go. This side of the reactor. Oh, okay. Okay, yep, it does teleport the player if you fall into it. I just fell right into it. Luckily, I teleported to a pretty safe location. So, once again, we're going to have to do this little building trick to get the ender buckets to where they need to be, because you cannot just place them in the air, which is unfortunate. But it's not really that much of a problem. This should add quite a bit of power ability to this reactor. We'll find out how much when I turn it back on. We were at, I think, a maximum of something like 9,200 RF per tick, maybe a shade more. Okay, so I need, what, 5 more buckets? And I should have 5 more buckets over here. Should actually have more than 5 more buckets. I do. Okay, so that's fantastic. As long as I don't double place that one block. I almost did. And then I got rid of a block I needed. Okay, so that's all my ender place. I need to go ahead and add the reactor glass back. So where is my reactor glass? It is right here in my inventory where I probably left it. Okay, so that's brain fart, but whatever. Let's go ahead and add this back. This reactor should, like I said, make a lot more power now. We'll find out how much in just a second. Another side effect is that it will run cooler, and I believe that reduces fuel burnup rate, and I can't remember if that's 100% correct or not. So let's go ahead and turn this thing back on. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So we were at 9,000 before. We're a lot higher now. So that is the power of moderators. So that is a significant increase. Let's go ahead and I wanted to clean this up before. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let's go ahead and get this modular storage unit here and proceed to the basement where the next and I believe last phase of today's episode will commence. So let's go ahead and put down this modular storage unit. It should have everything I need. So first off, I'm going to place mob grinders down. Let's get rid of the trash in my inventory at this point. And let's see if we can grab just most everything that I will need. So I don't need the glass. I don't need the flux duct. Okay, so I think I have everything I need. So first off, I'm going to place down the mob grinders, and they will go right here. The side with the death face, and what I mean by death face, the skull, is the killing side. I'm not exactly sure what the range of these things are. I want to say it's like a 7x7 cube in front of it, but I could 100% be wrong about that. So don't take that as like law or anything. As we can see, those two over there actually got some power. These two over here did not. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this reactor on and actually throttle it down quite a bit. I did not mean to do that. Whoops. Sorry about that. I hit the Windows key. Let's put the fuel rods 80. Oh, I don't think I was hitting the control. Yep, that's what the problem is. If you hold the control key, you actually move all of the control rods rather than just one of them. So let's see where this is at. You know what? If this thing settles around, what, 12,000 RF per tick? Okay, it's going to be lower than that. If it settles around 10,000 RF per tick, that's good for right now. So that's fine. As we can see, they're not getting power. They're spinning, so they will be able to kill things in there. So the next thing I need to do is... I didn't actually assemble my spawner yet. So the next thing I actually need to do is let's go ahead and make the spawner. So I am going to be using a powered spawner from the mod Ender.io. So what I need to do for that, or what I have done for that already, is I have built the powered spawner block itself. It's just crafting recipe. You need some Ender.io machines, but other than that, not too much. And then we need a broken spawner. I did forget to grab one thing, however. I need the mob captured in a soul vial, which I am going to be spawning. And the mod that I'm going to be spawning is the Blizz. And I need Blizzes in the future because I want to build cryo-stabilized flux duct, which can transmit an infinite amount of energy. And that's going to be fantastic in the future because I am going to be producing a lot of power. So what I need to do right now is I need to grab this Blizz soul vial. And I need to come over here to the soul binder. So I have the Blizz soul vial with the cave spider or just any broken spawner. And I place these guys in here, and it will ask me for 8 levels. So I'm going to give it 8 levels. I have a lot of experience. And then it will progress. This thing actually goes very slowly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away for a little bit. And once this is done, I will be back to grab the new Blizz spawner. So the soul binder is done with its activity. It gives me a broken spawner of the Blizz and an empty soul vial. So the next thing I need to do is I need to take a powered spawner and the broken spawner of the Blizz and combine it in an anvil. So that gives me a powered spawner that will spawn Blizz. So I did grab a capacitor to throw in the Ender.io machines. Basically all of the Ender.io machines that aren't the basic variety need they all need capacitors to be able to operate. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place this spawner down so I can configure it before I actually place it where it's going to go. And let's go ahead and configure this to be active with signal. I am going to be using a redstone signal to power it and throw in the basic capacitor. This thing will use only 800 RF per tick at this point. If I use a better capacitor, it will use more power, but it will also spawn more mobs. So now that I have that configured, let's pick it back up with my crescent hammer and place it right here. So this should already have power, and it actually grabbed power from my capacitor. That's not a problem. It shouldn't be on because I don't have it. I have not sent it a redstone signal. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and set up the redstone signaling. So what I need to do is right here I have redstone conduit that carries redstone signals to and from machines. And what I need to do is I need to configure this down here. So let's go to the redstone conduit, which is this right here. This will be an output on the signal color red. I don't think I need it to be a strong signal. So let's go ahead and run this conduit over. And I'm going to run it with a lever outside of the actual spawning area. The cool thing about Ender.io conduits is that they can be placed on top of each other in the same block space. So this block space right here contains both a redstone conduit and the Ender energy conduit. And that's just fantastic in terms of like routing conduits. So this is going to be a little tricky. That seems to work. So I don't think I can actually place this on top of it, but if I use a facade, I should be able to. I want it to be facing this way. So if I go ahead and turn this on, actually, and I can grab my Yeta hammer. The Yeta hammer is from Ender.io, and it is cool. It allows you to see conduits. So I can go ahead and configure the redstone conduit from the top side. It will be input on the signal color red, which I did configure that over there to be output on signal color red. So let's shut that and turn this on. It should start spawning. And it looks like there's something going on here. So let's see if it will spawn anything. I should hear it if it does. I do have a basic capacitor in it, so it is probably a little bit slow. There we go. It is functioning. So as you can see, all of the items are still dropped here and they're not doing anything. I do want to grab them, and how I'm going to grab them, I believe I'm going to use vacuulators, and I think I'm going to place them into the floor. It's not going to be the cleanest thing in the world, but it should be functional. Let's go ahead and put the vacuulators actually where I have the corner torches, and then I can place down the corner torches back on top. So I am going to configure all of the vacuulators to be output to the bottom and nothing on top. I hope this isn't too ugly for you. It's not too ugly for me, so whatever. And like I said, output to the bottom. It will be auto output like the basic or the default configuration of all, I believe, all of the thermal expansion machines. One of the rougher things about the area that I actually built this building is that on the right below this floor is a cavern. So that is kind of tricky at times. Luckily I can fly. That's all I can say about that, because I should have died a few times. Okay, so that's all set up. Let's go ahead and set up the impulse item duct. And the impulse item duct will actually carry the items. Actually, let's go ahead and test this again to make sure that the vacuulators are going to suck up all of the items. It should be able to. They should be able to. But this is why we test things, because sometimes things don't work as intended. It looks like it did grab up all of the items. So let's go ahead and see. That vacuumulator is empty. That one has some stuff. That one has more stuff. And that one has more stuff as well. So that is fantastic. That is exactly what I wanted to see. So now all I have to do is get the items out of the vacuulators and into storage. And that's going to be actually pretty simple here. Let's go ahead and set up the storage over here. And I'm going to be using black hole units. And let's actually just set these up right here. I'm going to have storage buses on top. And then we'll just connect this up pretty simply to the conduit outside. I can do that just by punching a hole in the wall right here. I should have some facades that I can use to tidy that up. And just drop this down like so. So those are now active. Let's go ahead and configure these to be negative priority for right now. In the future, that will change, obviously. Okay, so now I need to do a little bit of excavating here, but that should not be a problem. Let's go ahead and set this to 1x2 mode. And then I actually need to be careful here. I'm going to need to drop down. And I'm not to the cavern yet, which is kind of surprising. Oh, there it is. It was around somewhere. So actually, I don't need to cut that open because my item duct is what I'm going to use here. So let's go ahead and start placing that down. And actually, I'm going to need to go around this redstone conduit, but that's not a problem at all. So that's all connected up. Like I said, the vacuulators will automatically output to this impulse item duct. And I need to drop that down once more. And then under here, I'm just going to connect this up by placing more item duct. And it should automatically go to where it needs to go once I have everything configured. So let's not actually build that up just yet because I need room to get out of here for the moment. I can, however, go ahead and connect all of these up like so. And then I need to connect these. And these should be a little easier. There should be fewer obstacles in my way. Cool. So I can just run this straight over, and then, yeah, I can just run it straight over. I don't even need to duck under anything. And like so. So let's go ahead and get some stone. Let's tidy this back up if I can. Might as well. Okay, so we're starting to get items in here. And I do need to take out some of the trash. The andesite is trash. Cobblestone is trash. Okay, so let's lock that to be Blizz rods. Let's lock this to be snowballs. Let's lock this to be experience. And we can go ahead and do that on the top side as well. And then we can set these to positive priorities. And I'm not sure if there are going to be other outputs. There probably will be that we haven't got yet. Some rarer drops from the Blizz. So I need to account for that fact that that'll probably happen. I'm not really sure the best way to do that without just running it for a while. That might actually be just the best course of action. So let's go ahead and cover this last remaining hole here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this for a while to see what kind of drops we get. Because like I said, there will probably be more drops that I haven't accounted for just yet. And I need to keep the empty ones clean here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this run for a little while and then see what other drops I get, and then configure things as necessary, and I will be right back. My spawning area has now been running for a few minutes, and I actually upgraded the capacitor to the best capacitor that you can make in Ender.io. So let's see what we have. We have solidified experience, snowballs, blizz rods, and then these two over here are actually empty. And unlocking them doesn't allow anything else in. So it looks like our system is only producing those three things as of right now. So let's go ahead and shut this off. And I do want to double check that the vacuulators are empty, but they should be at this point. And I did redo the item duct how I had it done underneath. And I also reconfigured which black hole units had which items. But as you can see, I'm just getting the three things right now. So that looks to be good. So that's all I'm producing at this point, which is fine by me. I just pretty much needed the blizz rods. And having blizz rods around is going to help me out in the future. So I think that's a pretty good wrapping up for today's episode. So in today's episode, kind of going in reverse order, I set up this mob spawner. I also set up this reactor, which can produce up to, I don't know, what was it, like 35,000 RF per tick, maybe a little bit less. And this primarily will power the mob spawner. I also set up my basic capacitor underneath my base to act as a giant battery for my base. And then I also set up automatic water bucket making. So it's been a long but very productive episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to drop a like down below. And if you like watching automation type stuff in modded Minecraft, definitely consider subscribing to my channel because that's typically what I do. Anyways, signing off, I am Minecraft Phenom 08, and I will see you next time.